Great, thank you. Excellent, thank you very much. So as Carmen said, my name is Sarah Forman. I lead strategy and corporate development for Urenco globally. And what I'll do is I'll explain a little bit about what Urenco is and talk about some of our plans to expand and address some of the questions and market dynamics we've already spoken about this morning. I'll share some broader perspective on the uranium enrichment market, and then that can lead into some other reflections on ESA's 2022 report. So to start, what is Urenco? Well, we're the Uranium Enrichment Company, and broadly, we do what it says on the label. We're a leading enrichment company for civil nuclear fuel, and we have operations actually in 4 places. So the Netherlands, Germany, the UK, and also in the US. And across all of them, we provide safe, cost-effective, and reliable uranium enrichment services and fuel cycle products for power generation, so civil use, in 19 countries to over 50 customers. We're also one of only 4 suppliers of civil enrichment services globally. And so that means the world is really looking to us right now to address a lot of the concerns we've spoken about and to support the nuclear industry through those. Fortunately, we've been able to do quite a bit in the very near term in order to increase capacity at our sites by reversing underfeeding. So it's changing the way that we use our assets in order to generate more enriched uranium from the same physical machines. In the future, we actually have the opportunity to re-optimize again and change the way that we use those same assets to, say, make up for a lack of conversion in the fuel cycle. And so that really innate flexibility in how we can use our systems and use our machines lets us be quite responsive to changing customer and societal needs. We've also embarked on a significant capital investment program in order to build more of the long-term enrichment capacity across all of our sites that will be needed to support the industry in the medium and the long term. That means we started engineering, design, and other foundational work to be able to deliver whatever the market requires of us. We've begun a big hiring program, and we've made new contracts with our centrifuge supplier, that's ETC, the enrichment technology company, to ensure that we have the supply chain and the people in order to deliver that expansion. We've also actually already announced the first of our capacity expansions. We did that back in July. So we'll be expanding at our US site in New Mexico by about 15% off of the existing enrichment capacity there, adding about 700 tons of separative work, so SWU, what we saw on the board, just a measure of how we measure enrichment services. And that should be online by early 2027. And that's only the first. We have the physical space and the license headroom in order to expand at our other sites as well. So just as an example, at our Dutch site in Almelo in the Netherlands, we can go from the 5.1 million separative work units or SWU that we had last year up to 6.2 million SWU a year. So that's a lot of opportunity for further growth. We're also doing quite a bit to support the evolution of the nuclear fuel cycle to supply the next generation of reactor technology. That means being able to supply fuel at slightly different enrichment levels than those that are typically used today. So that would be in the form of high assay LEU up to about 20%, or LEU plus, which is about 5 to 10% enrichment level. We've actually got the first customer contract signed for enriched uranium product to be used in an advanced reactor. That's with UltraSafe Nuclear Corporation, and we're committed to a first delivery in 2025. So that's progress on the advanced fuel side. Last thing I'll mention is that in addition to uranium enrichment, we've actually been operating a stable isotopes facility for more than 3 decades in Europe in our Dutch facility. And we now have quite a substantial portfolio of enriched and depleted products for a wide range of uses, including in the medical space and for industrial applications. So we're, of course, now working closely with our industry partners and others to see how we can expand that capacity and those capabilities to address concerns around Russian market disruption in this field as well. So that's the potted overview of Urenco and what it is that we do. Happy to take questions after. What I'd love to transition into then is just an overview of the enrichment market and what we've been seeing, especially over the last 18, 20 months, since quite a lot changed in our industry. Across the board, we're seeing that there have been 3 big drivers that are giving the nuclear industry in general and the enrichment market specifically quite new and increased momentum. The first is the climate crisis. The second is the need for energy security that's largely been driven by the crisis in Ukraine. And the third is the advancement of new technologies, so advanced modular reactors, small modular reactors, as we've spoken about. I'll talk through each of these just briefly in turn. So on the climate crisis, I think we're seeing that there's increased urgency and visibility on how important it is to be addressing this challenge and getting ahead of it. And that's leading to more and more countries turning to nuclear because they're recognizing that it's a reliable, low carbon, and secure source of energy. We see that as quite a positive trend because we know that we don't have the luxury to exclude proven carbon neutral technologies as we try so urgently to decarbonize. So it's a positive thing. And the way this is manifesting across different countries in a few ways. Many countries are extending the lifetime of plants that had been slated to close. Others are expanding their plans to build new power plants, as we've spoken about already. And still others are increasing their investment in the new reactor technologies that will be part of our future portfolios. So all of that working together is just creating more growth in the nuclear industry across the board. That's the big trend of the climate crisis. The second is energy security. And again, this has already come up quite a bit and was consistent across ESA's report. But there's been renewed emphasis on security of fuel supplies that's resulting in longer term contracting with counterparties that are seen as reliable and sustainable. In the past, Russian state-owned enterprises have been offering prices that just are simply unsustainable in a Western context. But since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it's really shaken the market's faith in the reliability of the future deliveries of those contracts. And we're seeing that customers and countries are very actively diversifying away from Russian supplies, despite those artificially low prices. This is a couple of examples. We have an ongoing contract with Energoatom, that's the Ukrainian nuclear power provider, and we've increased our volumes to them within our existing contracts in light of the conflict and everything they're doing to ensure energy security. We've also signed a 10-year deal with Bulgaria's Kozloduy plant, and that will supply one of their units that was originally Russian fueled. We're working actually with our partners, Cameco and Westinghouse, to be able to do that and to have the technology ready for it. And working with Westinghouse, we can actually offer operators across Eastern Europe the fuel they need for Russian-designed reactors. So all of that is really contributing towards this drive to support fuel security and energy independence. And we're expecting that to continue as countries are looking to increase energy security independence and are relying more heavily on Western suppliers like ourselves. So we see that trend just continue to expand our order book in the future. So that's energy security. The third big trend is the advancement of new technology. So I think like many in the room, we'd expect that the next generation of nuclear reactors is going to have different characteristics than those that have come before. So we're seeing that advanced modular reactors and smaller reactors will become the norm as governments and companies are using these as a tool to decarbonize broader parts of their energy systems. These new designs are going to require advanced fuels. This is a big focus for us and one that we're very actively supporting to make sure that the evolution of the fuel cycle can evolve appropriately to deliver that. We're expanding our product portfolio already to supply LEU+. So again, that's just the 5 to 10% enriched uranium. And we're also planning for a new facility that will let us deliver high assay LEU, so HALEU or Halloy, up to just under 20% for the newest reactor designs. With regard to that HALEU facility specifically, we're still focusing on developing the commercial scope of the new plant. So that includes questions around location and capacity, how it connects into existing infrastructure. But it's all being undertaken within the framework of agreements that govern Urenco and really closely takes into account the needs and expectations of the customers and societies that we serve. We're seeing that this market for advanced fuels is developing very fast, especially in North America, where there's been a lot of investment and activity. And from our perspective, this is a very important and strategic question to think about within the EU context as well, and one to really be urgently addressed to help reinforce these points around security of supply and ensuring we have the energy systems needed to decarbonize. So that, in a bit of a whirlwind, are the three big trends that we're seeing across the nuclear industry and enrichment in particular: climate change, security of supply, new reactor designs. To build off that a little and just think about the context of the ESA report, we think it's really encouraging that this report has recognized that diversification of supply sources contributes to the viability of the EU's nuclear industry And we agree that it's a significant means of ensuring secure supplies in the medium and the long term. We'd absolutely reiterate the calls in the report for all users to make long-term commitments to conversion and enrichment services that are sourced openly from commercial suppliers that can only reinforce the investments needed to deliver the security needed in the long term. If anything, we'd suggest perhaps going a step further. We think there's even an opportunity to take on greater oversight mandates to provide stronger market clarity and longer term certainty on future market structures. So that could include even an expanded role managing stockpiles or restrictions on contract concurrence, just for example. In general, our perspective is that stable and long-term policy around future market demand is essential to planning operations efficiently. The investments that an organization like Urenco makes now in our plants, they'll last another 30 years. And so long-term certainty on what markets look like, what contracts and market demand will be out there, that's really critical to underpinning our investments. So that I'll pause there and leave our reflections that moment, but just to bring sort of some overall thinking together in conclusion, we all know that nuclear as an industry needs to deliver on this growing momentum, needs to be able to support the transitions happening across the energy industry. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of collaboration needed for that. At Urenco, we're working really closely with our customers, with our partners in the industry, and with national governments to support broader sustainability and energy security efforts. And we'll continue doing that. We think it's incredibly important. We also know that for the industry as a whole to deliver, organizations like our own are going to need to invest to ensure there's capacity for the future. We're doing so. We're expanding capacity at our sites, we're investing in the fuels of the future, and we're progressing our medical isotopes arm. We also know, though, for investments like ours to be fully successful, we'll need sustainable long-term customer contracts to underpin big investments today. So we would again reiterate that long-term policies that provide real clarity on future market dynamics and access, those will be essential. Thank you very much.